Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So when Arachas Queen came out, this was actually something that I wanted to try in an Arachas Swarm deck, and I know maybe most of the time I've been seeing it in Death Wish, but I think it has a lot of potential in Arachas Swarm just because its extra ability to spawn a Arachas nest. And I was thinking if we go ahead and consume something like the Endriga eggs, then it becomes pretty intriguing. Also, Arachas Swarm does have healthy backups, like if you wanted to go super tall with it, you could essentially go and take a Griffin, for example, and you'd be able to spawn one of those if you're not playing into control. But again, it's one of those things where Arachas Queen just seemed appropriate with Arachas Swarm, so I believe it has potential. I just don't know if it's the best time for it here. And this is a little bit different than most days that I go ahead and make videos because I actually have two decks with the same concept, and I think depending on the situation, one could be better than the other. So we have Triss that's going to be reaching for ideally a Bone Talisman to get the extra payoff card because we have a lot of setup, we just need a lot of payoff. And then we have Karathi Heatwave for Tall Punish. The ability to bleed and get more units on our side of the playing field is going to help us either defend round or push another round, so it's actually very useful. Yen, another payoff card. We're going to be putting this on the range row more than often. The only problem with Yen is that it plays very poorly into the Nilfgaard matchup where they can go and they can coup that, and then they can go and place it on melee for their side. So if you're playing against Nilfgaard, you want to make sure that maybe you actually go and you consume the Yen with something like the Endriga Warrior, just so that as soon as we get that payoff, we can get rid of it so that we don't lose all those points. Now, Zoltan's another payoff. First time seeing Zoltan in a Arachas Swarm deck was when teammates Zywer made his own Arachas Swarm deck, and this is sometime maybe like 3 or 4 months ago at least. And I was really intrigued by that. I think it still holds a good place here. You can use it offensively as well and do some damage. Let's say you're playing into the Fire Swarm matchup. They have a better board state than you. You can go ahead and you can take this for damage if that seems to be appropriate. That's just an example, right? Definitely is very versatile here. Now, Arachas Behemoth is sort of like an auto-include whenever you're doing this sort of thing. And Toad Prince has earned its place on the roster with just the power that it has. Being able to have some control in my decks is something I like to do. Now, I put Knickers here because it's less units than putting in something like the Riders. And I kind of want to focus on like bringing out tokens opposed to bringing out units for the most part. It is still a beast, so it plays well with the spontaneous evolution and gets more value off it there. We have, I believe, 4 beasts in the deck, 2, and the Griffins would make it 4. And so we have really good boosts off those if we have to take it instead of going wide if we're already too wide. Now, this helps clear up real estate. Easy to get basically a token, you know, destroyed with this. You get the card on the playing field. Another little spawn here, and of course management and something to consume either the eggs or if we want to go super tall in the Arachas Queen on that as well. I normally don't go too tall on it really because I find this consuming one of these and having the nest is often enough value for the 10 provisions, but if you have to, you can go ahead and you can consume that with the Endriga if you think it's the safe play to make. Now, this was the first deck that I played most of the games with, and I tried it and there was a little bit of things that I wanted to change, and one of the things is I found that we needed a little bit more payoff, and I kind of wanted to put a second Bone Talisman, and then I found that we were gambling a little bit with the pred dives. You know, we were getting some really good dives in the games, but I wanted to have more of that direct control, and I felt like Parasite just felt, you know, pretty good here. So if we're going to the Swarm alternative, I'll be posting both of these decks in the description. This one has 2 Talisman, and I went ahead and took out the 2 Pred Dives, and I put a Parasite and a Maxi. Maxi is going to help because Knickers is out of the deck at this point, and it's going to help us look at our deck in order and shuffle it if we need to, which is ultimately going to help with what we're drawing in the game. I would say that this version is a little bit greedier because it's not as consistent with the draws, but Maxi definitely helps shake things up and actually try and figure it out that way. So I got 4 games for you guys today, and the first 3 were with the first deck. The last one was with this deck, and they play pretty well the same. There's very minute changes, so if you've watched the whole video, you'll know how to play the second deck by playing the first deck. but I do think that the second deck gets a little bit more payoff because we work so hard at getting a swarm, and this just seems to be a really good balance of, you know, spawn to payoff cards after the games that I played. So I don't know, well, I don't think that this is going to be anything close to meta right now because of all the control that we have, but I do think that we can get some really good wins here. I do think the deck has merit, and I do think it has potential. And potentially when we're into a season, maybe with a change to Milva, and maybe when they realize how strong warriors are, and those things get shaken up a little bit, then, you know, this will be viable. This could be something that could be very strong at that time, but for now it's a good mid-range deck. It does pretty well. I'm sure it'll get you to pro rank. I just don't know how high you can climb with it in pro rank. But without further ado, let's get into the games. Alright, for the first game we got Ursine Ritual by Skellige. And they're more of the self-wound type of deck. The only thing that I'm worried about is if they're maybe running a Blue Boy Lugos, which could actually really be a problem for us taking out our tokens, especially when they get to 2 power. So we got to be mindful of that one. I'm taking mulligans. You could probably put away Blood Moon or Crimson Curse, just because we don't actually want to be giving them value on the heal and stuff like that. So in this matchup, it seems a little bit awkward to play a card like that. And good openers within the eggs, just get them out there. Something proactive to do. We can go ahead and consume that. Or they can just do it for us. That's perfect. So by putting down another one, it can really help fill up the row. It's going to spawn 3 drones, and then obviously if we consume the tokens to the left of it as well with the Intriga, then we'll be able to get an extra token too. So a little bit of extra value there. It's too bad Knickers comes up on the top row. And this was one of the things that made me feel like maybe we can take out Knickers, because the summon location is random and it could interfere with our swarm here, because I'm trying to fill the board for the behemoth, but then we have Knickers here. But it's really not that big of a deal. It's just like a little thing that I considered. I think we just go ahead and take the consume. Why not? Fill up the board nicely here. And they're more than likely going to be getting rid of one of the tokens there. We've got room to put down the behemoth shortly if we're going to go and do that play.
I can do a great deal more for you.
At least they're trading down with the damage pings. For the most part. If it's not a 1-power token, it's got armor on it. Oh, okay, that was a good swing. 35 to 11. So at this point, I'm deciding that we probably don't have the round, but it would be good to still contest it a bit longer because it's not out of reach. And they didn't spend as much as I'm content with. I kind of want to see maybe one more relatively expensive card rotate. I know if I can stay in the round long enough, Cirrus will come out, which ultimately is not like a round 1 play that I like to make, but I see here the blue boys really getting pinged down, so I just know that it's only a matter of time before that's a thing too, right? Now, I'm just trying to decide here if I can greed an 8-point boost on the beast, or if I can go ahead and put down a griffin, maybe take out the behemoth. Definitely a couple things to consider here, but with that engine, well, the 2 engines technically going here, it's going to be a little bit difficult to keep going. Cirrus counter is at 9, so that just comes out of the deck too, which is really nice to see here early. Feeling pretty good about it. We have Toad Prince, got some good spawn cards here. I don't mind taking dives if they try and bleed, which is actually kind of nice. It's like the only deck that I actually enjoy running dive, because we do a dive and then we actually get a token back. So, you know, if we dive on them and then they pass, we don't have to play another card, which is like really good.
Stars are all the trophies I need.
Okay, that's just like a really good dive. We know that they're going to try and make copies of that. My version has that, Adarn, and Megascopes, so we got to be careful. I'm going to respect that that could be quite a lot of points. And then we have perfect setup for a Griffin if they want to play here.
May Maldron Freya watch us and keep us.
So with Blue Boy coming back, honestly, I don't think they're running Scenario in a deck like this. But I do think that plays for a ton of points with Leader. And, you know, in the second version that I made of this deck, that was one of the considerations for it. Wasn't the only one, right? There's a lot of things that we want to remove that are like 5 plus, you know, and the Parasite just makes it a little bit better. So I could have used the Parasite there if I had it. In this case, it takes the Heat Wave. Either way, it's gone, and I don't think that was a bad spend regardless. Because Blue Boy's like definitely one of the win conditions for them here. That's a big tempo play. It's hard to anticipate that because we see it half the time. The other half of the time, players don't run it. I've tried it with both. I find I don't think you need it, really. Cirrus comes from deck, and you've got the Coral Burna. I think like with the discards, it's pretty good. It's good for tempo, but most decks can put up 10-15 points on one turn. So I'm just trying to see if there's a way to actually get out in one shot, but I don't think we can. I was even considering the offensive Yen, it just wasn't it. And obviously not being able to get rid of Melusine now sucks, but they did go ahead and play Sigdriff is right. So I'm thinking that there's a possibility that, you know, we can probably still get out of this one. Not have to worry too much about a Melusine coming back or being worth a whole lot when it comes back. So 5 and then 4. It should be at 4 points, yeah? That's like the best Toad Prince that we're going to get in the match. And the nice part about it is this will actually keep us ahead if they decide to go and pass. So we're back to defending card. And one thing we gotta hope for here that's really gonna help us in the game is them not having any sort of Berserk payoff cards in hand, because then their leader is gonna be losing them points if they decide to go all in and crank it. They'll be spending 4 to get 6 back, and that's not very good.
A drop of knowledge can overpower even a sea of strength.
Now we got 2 beasts on the playing field. I think we should just have enough points if we put down a spontaneous on maybe the Toad Prince. We don't really want to make the Griffin even taller if they have like a Heat Wave or something like that. That would just be really bad. There's also consideration to take a Yen soon. Like, look at this. I decided, like, that's kind of a big deal, you know? I don't think they'll be having any more discards. We should be okay. I think. Yeah. And by playing Yen there at that specific time, it actually lets us just play one of our bronze cards and not have to spend Triss here. And we could probably either get out of the round on this card, but I don't think they're going to play it. If they do, we could probably just play the ARACHAS Nest and get out. Fukusha. Oh, that's actually a lot of points. That's a lot of points. So I think I'm going to take Triss here and finish it off with the leader. I think that's the way to do it. Do we need to? Oh, this is where I made a mistake. That's embarrassing. For whatever reason, I was just like, I saw the back row and I was like, oh, it's just 1 point. And then and then there's 2 points. We could have actually gotten out of that round a card up even if we just played 1 leader charge. Man, looking back at that, that's embarrassing. I find when I put together decks too, like I haven't played ARACHAS Swarm in a few months. The games get better as we go along here. Get comfortable playing it again. But either way, I promise you we have a game left in us here. I'm just gonna drop down the warrior, I think.
Don't you pester me.
I kind of wanted to play it slow. Thinking back at it, looking at it now, and kind of looking at some provisions here, the only thing I was worried about is them heat waving the 10 before we could do anything with it. But I think it would have been probably better just to consume a token, maybe go consume that to get the extra point, but it would be like a 1 point difference. Or consume a token, spawn the row, take a griffin. You know what I mean? Would have been a few extra points here than the intrigue on the empty board. However, honestly, guys, the lead's incredible. So those are like 2 pretty bad mistakes. So for anybody wondering, you know, do you ever show when you suck? Yes. You know, there you go. We still got it done regardless. Moving on to another one here. Obviously, at the time, I was like, okay, we got to tighten up and play a bit better for this game. So we got Onslaught, and I think this is probably going to be one of the most challenging matchups that we have. Again, this one and I think the Milva matchup are going to be the 2 hardest ones. Got a mulligan back knickers, and then for the most part it's not bad, but we're going first, so pred dive's a little bit awkward. But we do have ways to play around self-pred diving. I don't really want to go too tall with the spontaneous, so that's why I take a mulligan there, rather just kind of go a bit wider here. And the nice part about playing into Skellige is that I feel like our tempo is going to be good enough so that we can get out of the round if we're going first. And I feel like if we're going second, you know, the red side of the coin, we can actually just really apply the pressure and maybe get some commitments that they otherwise wouldn't have had to play maybe against other matchups. And a lot of it comes down to what boats they run. If they're running melee boats, then we're okay. If they're running range boats, it's actually worse for us.
I can do a great deal more for you.
Tell me you don't like that. That's actually really nice. You basically play that one sequence there and you have like a full board. Oh, close. You know what I mean? Like, that's a round, basically.
Don't you pester me.
And if I'm being honest, I don't think I've ever run into anybody on the ladder playing ARACHAS Queen in ARACHAS Swarm. I'm sure that some of you guys maybe have tried it. If you guys have already done this before, let me know in the comments, and how's it been going for you overall and stuff like that. See, that's what we could have done last game, is obviously getting an extra copy of something. So if they go crazy and remove a bunch of our tokens, we have another crack at it. And if we're really desperate for it, we don't have Oniro, let's say, in a certain situation, we could theoretically go in with like a Griffin or something, but or we could just let it sit there for 4 points. I think we just let it sit there more than often. Take a Griffin on a 1, don't we? Probably the best trade at this point because we're on blue. You got to be mindful of that Turgvi in a lot of these Skellige decks. So if I pull into a Griffin later, I'm not going to take it with me, I don't think. We'll probably tuck that one back. So there we go. Wasn't too expensive of a round. It was okay. Let's see here. Yeah, Griffin goes away. We can't be dealing with that. We also don't want to go too tall. That's why I went and took ARACHAS Queen round 1 with this matchup, because I figured once we get that big consume, the Nilfgaard gets a lot of payoff here. We'll do like a little bit of a soft lead, see if we can get some commitments here. I just want to see, okay, I go and play something like that, what do you do now, right? And if they don't do anything in response to it, then we push. We go all in with leader and crank the yen, and we just start getting payoff after payoff, basically, and try and get out some of these high-end golds. So Heatwave is slow. We gotta play, basically, that's it. And a lot of our payoff cards, guys, play on range row, like the Zoltan, the Yen, and the Triss. They all go on ranged. So when you're swarming, make sure that you're actually putting a little bit more on the melee row than you are on the range row for that reason alone. Rain sucks, but Fukusha out here is actually really good. It's actually really good, and they're trying to snipe some tokens for sure. Oh, they are sniping tokens. So we still have card back. We still do.
I'll do what I can.
That's annoying. Do we ever just spawn more? I think we do. If we can keep them here, then we can get like a really good talisman. That's the problem with Triss in this meta, is that everyone's running so many special cards that the RNG aspect of you pulling into your talisman's not as good. Which was one of the considerations to put like an extra talisman in the deck, and why I did it for the second version, which is our last game of the day. Right? Because if we miss payoffs, then we lose lots of points. Like, those are where the points come from. The points don't come from these 1-point tokens on the board, right? Now, that's a card that gets a lot of payoff. Like, a lot of payoff. That actually might even be worth the heat wave that we have. It still puts us comfortably ahead. Seeing Nilfgaard here on a token's nice. We don't have to worry about that for round 3. It doesn't put them ahead, but it keeps them close. The thing is, they didn't get rid of enough to really make me say let's leave the round, so we'll go ahead and boost the back row here, up by 16 points. I don't think they could do 16 and 1. And I also think there actually is consideration, believe it or not. I know it's a little bit late in the round, but it won't see any value in round 3 to go and pull Crimson Curse. Because I find when you have this card, math just goes out the window for a lot of a lot of the opponents. Like, you know, it's hard to keep track of the bleeding, and you trying to chase the bleed overall, like get back in the round. It's where mistakes are made, right? Really, basically. Reset and purify, okay. So I'm thinking bleeding should be able to save us here. We do get the extra point off of that. I want to see an all-in scenario, because if I can trade that for 2 cards, then I'm thinking that's pretty good. See if we can get it like a Herald or something of that sort. Sure enough, that's a nice trade. And it's not enough here because it actually will keep them behind by a point or 2. Yeah? So they gotta play. What is it gonna be? Irish Shade, okay. See, that's not bad. We might have actually saved us a lot of points for round 3. Now it's whoever top decks better, but we have Neuromancy, so I feel pretty confident with that. And I'm thinking, okay, if we can just sort of play second and, you know, respond to what they're doing and try to remove something, we got a really good removal option with the Toad Prince. What else do we have in deck? Can even fish for a Pred Dive. And then use Spontaneous to boost either the Toad Prince or tokens to get a bit of points on the board. A lot of it comes down here to if Berna hits. Hits for 1. That's a lot of points. I'm trying to decide if I take that or if I take natural. I think we actually might go ahead and natural the Berna, because if we remove the lowest unit, it might actually ruin our Toad Prince for the rest of the game. And I kind of just want to play a little non-interactive, so playing specials is probably better for us here. Just go ahead with that. Then we can consume the 4. Gurd's massive, okay. We're back in it here. Let's see. Get 8 boost on the Toad Prince. Ah, it's just not enough. So they actually had a Swarm Tech in the deck, which is pretty wild. If they would have had that in round 2, would have been in trouble. Moving on to the 3rd game of the day, we have Enslave. We'll see if it's 5 or 6 here shortly. And if I remember correctly, this game was a nightmare. It was a really frustrating game. Luckily, we don't have to go first in this one, though, which is pretty nice. I mean, pretty hard not to take that when you see that, right? Because it helps open up room for playing our Spontaneous Evolution or our Griffin or Behemoth, right? There's a lot of things that it really helps set up by playing an organic card first. Also, when they're running heavy tactics, it's a little bit frustrating if we give them like a 1-point assassination or tourney joust or something like that, right?
I bring death.
So I'm thinking, okay, let's keep it slow here. It doesn't really mean we have to go crazy because they put out a thinning package. Let's just take ARACHAS Nest, and We can even consider playing another one because we have a lot of swarm cards, and we know that they're probably going to clog us pretty hard with spying. A lot of these Enslave decks are running spy packages. I didn't run one in my most recent one, but for the most part I've been seeing Brathens and Emissary and Informant. Here we'll keep pace with a little bit of points, because that's quite a bit of points to keep up with. Knickers comes out for the deck, then I like that. We know that obviously winning the round is going to be kind of good for us, because if we do win this round, we can try and bleed out some of their better cards next round. Ideally, if you want to go and do that strategy, you have to win on even. It gives you a bit more room, because I find if you're card down and they have a handful of their best cards, you might be getting some of them, but it's very difficult to get that card advantage. So it's one of those things. 33-16. I don't see why I can't just take one of those. It puts it within reach, and I'm taking every turn thinking about, okay, if we get a pass here, how do we get out in one turn? I don't necessarily want to play down to 4 or 2 cards down, because I want to be able to have the option to push in round 2. Also, I think it's a little bit strange. I didn't get my card back, the one that they're using for watching the Masters. It literally didn't show up in my account. I don't know if you guys got yours, but I watched the whole thing. It was like a Twitch drop to get that card back. So we do still have room. There was consideration here, okay, if we get a pass, could I play Yen? And the reason for which is if they're running Coup, I don't want to have them having access to the Yen. Okay, yeah, that sort of pushes us out of the round. Seeing that commitment, 12 provisions, we got 10 provisions, another 10 there. They used the leader too, so they're up by 30 points. Honestly, man, we go for the pass here. We can put back Knickers in our deck and then just get the Thin back later on. So I don't know if that was really the card you wanted to put back in my hand, but I'm not complaining. There we go. I don't know if I want to have a Griffin. Could just keep it. It's not a bad hand. I don't think they're running poisons and all that, so it doesn't matter too much. And based on the leader they took, guys, I'm pretty sure it's Enslave 5. We'll see if we have another look at it. They snagged a 5-point token. Actually, it could have even been 6, but that was the best option they had. been seeing versions like this going around. That's a pretty good dive, I'm not gonna lie. 8-point dive. 9 points, 5 provisions. Coin abuse. They don't want to pass because they have that stratagem sitting there. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's only 3 points. Nothing we really want to lock. Everything's like deploy pretty well here, so... Now, we have to respect that 100%, because if they bond the illusionists, they're getting 9-point griffins, which is just ridiculous. And Knickers comes back out. I think that's a lesson learned there. So you know the goal. They're trying to bleed here, so I'm just doing whatever I can to stay just a little bit up. And we don't want to have to go card down and give them back that card. We want to take that advantage into round 3. And I'm just doing a provision count here. Rede is 11. Other new cards 12. Calvi is 10. Right? Truffle's 10. Like, we're seeing big commitments, and I don't think that we've committed the same amount that we've seen. Lydia's like 9 provisions. Wow, that was a big play. That was a huge play. I gotta start getting some payoff here, guys. I want to avoid playing something like our ARACHAS Queen, and I'm actually terrified to play Yen, so it's one of those things. They're probably looking to roll the Yen here. Okay, sure enough. Triss is fine. I don't think they can do much with that.
How can I help?
So it's a 5-point turn. That's not really too bad for us. We don't need a lot of points on this turn. Be kind of nice to use like our damage here, or even just that. Like if I just toss like some damage, we will get a 1-point token, which helps out with the Griffin. There's also Yen here. I haven't seen Ku, so I'm starting to think maybe they don't have it. There's also that Yen for Yen, so they can play Yen, right? I wonder if we ever just put that down for points. We have a pretty comfortable lead. Or even, yeah, just toss a little damage here. Kind of wanted that to go in the back row for the Griffin, but that's fine. So they take the resilience on the shoot. I don't know if we care that much. Unfortunately, we have to play. However, we should be able to go into the last round with at least a card on them. Not a bad treason. I think we get the pass we're looking for here. I think we can keep that. We have a token left, or 1 leader charge left over for potentially Griffin in round 3. I just don't know if I want to play into Tall Punish. It's really kind of a last minute choice for me here. I don't know. I don't think we need Griffin at this point. We could maybe take a mulligan. Spontaneous is okay. Yeah. We got like a mini swarm here. The only problem is that they decided to play the end. They decided to keep it. They have it in their hands. So if we're going to go wide, we have to go wide at the end. It's one of the reasons why I decided maybe we take the heat wave there.
Highly curious case.
And Toad Prince is just set up perfectly, though. Makes you wonder, do I ever go ahead and boost that, or do I actually just take the swarm? I don't want to play into like a Vanamar or something like that, so I'm kind of taking it a little bit slow here, maybe just using the widespread. Even though they have the yen, at least 1 token will stick from that, and then we can play the Arachas Queen. And Ointment's not really that great. Let's try and roll Triss.
I'll do what I can.
Ah, reroll. That's probably the most points we're going to get, right? And at this point, I can see that yen's not going to be enough.
There'll be nothing to pick up when I'm done with you.
Yeah, all we have to do is play the card for points, but again, we can just go ahead and use it. It's no problem. Wasn't too close. It was alright. Very frustrating game, though. Moving on to the last one, guys. This one's going to be a game with the second deck. So if you want to follow along with the deck, make sure you open up the second one that I posted, the 2.0, in the description. And this will be it. But now we got like a really challenging matchup. I'm sure some of you guys are probably wondering, okay, well, what about vampires, right? Vampires should win this game. They have the best bleeding potential out of like any matchup because we don't have Veil going around, you know? Like, Fire Swarm has more Veil. We're just sitting here with Doom tokens, man. I want to fight in the round, so I take a heat wave here before it becomes more of a problem. If we even wait one more turn, then the heat wave isn't really worth it. So we have to take it right away, otherwise it's no good. Now, that might provoke them to play other cards like Unseen Elder and things like that, which we could still pass on, keep in mind. Again, I want to see commitments. So Toad Prince here off the Alp is really good. Obviously, they get extra 3 bleeding next turn, so it's like a 7-point consume almost, right? Of value plus the base power of the card. Pretty nuts. So the real problem with the deck are obviously the flutters. Like, that's like gonna be the trickiest part for us here. Applying some pressure here, making them go for a big spend. Again, I don't doubt our ability to swarm and get a lot of points in a short round, and I do think that our short round game's probably better because they want long round to get more payoff from the bleeding, so that's why I'm playing this one down quite a bit here. Seeing Detlef's kind of nice. We're starting to get some commitments here. Do I ever play this? Or do I just take a Spores or ARACHAS Nest? Spores tech would actually be kind of nice into this matchup too. But we don't have a Spores in our deck. There's a lot of times where it just doesn't play for much. So I think I'm okay, like, not necessarily winning on even, but either getting big commitments here or just winning one card down. So Detlef's out, Oriana's coming out, that's good. So we've gotten some good cards. I want to see maybe if we can get like one more. Like a panic play or something. Spontaneous, not bad. Maybe on the range row, fill it up, make them think the Triss is coming next turn, or a Talisman. If I see what I want, we'll pass. If I don't see what I want, we'll play. That wasn't really enough for me.
I will not let this become a second Sodom.
Play Triss first. Agitator wins it if we get the pass. Just do the whole range thing. They're getting really good payoff from their Detlef in this matchup, though. Holy. Okay, I'm good with that. I think we can agree, right? That's good. Fletter, Oriana, Detlef, Unseen Elder, Naglfar. Yeah. There we go. We got them to spend a little bit more than what they wanted to, and then we kept like pretty good cards for later on. The only thing I'm worried about though is that maybe they have Witch's Sabbath and they just didn't care to play those expensive cards in round 1, which then makes it actually very scary. I'm not anticipating vampires to bleed. to push in round 2. To bleed, yes. To push, no. So we'll go ahead and just play the Endriga Warrior here. That's fine. We got some good payoffs for round 3. We have the ability to just swarm very quickly. And what might save us here is that the round's not very long. So I might be able to actually use full leader, take the ARACHAS Queen, and then go and spawn on the other row and just get that board really full and then just go payoff, payoff, payoff. So that's something to think about. or even take the eggs too, and then Arachas Queen and full leader. You see what I mean? There's going to be a big board contrast very quickly here. Kind of save some points, right? Kind of. A little bit. The game's not over. It just got slow for a second here. Probably playing on the phone. Like such a better tempo yen. Arachas Behemoth, I think we can get away with first. I think we could and should. Actually, we can yen here first and still do it after. Yeah, I think we do. Just keep it nice and boosty and quick. And when tokens leave, you know, when they bleed them out, we can just go ahead and play Behemoth after if we need to. We're not getting behind that defender. I've sort of accepted that. Let's get some payoffs here. Zoltan before the talisman, so we get the extra boost here. Let's go ahead and hit the row. And if we actually keep our tokens in check, like if everything stays on the board, then we can just go ahead and maybe play like a Griffin or something like that. Because there's probably going to be like a 1 power sitting around with all the bleeding. I could see 2 that are going to turn into 1. Actually 3 including yen. And then the 1 on the top row. So quite a few. And that might be the better play to make at this point in the round. It's pretty short. That was a little bit underwhelming. I wonder, putting Behemoth down for 3, spawning 1, because the board would, the board would fill up 3, 6, 7, 8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, nah. It's fine the way we took it. Toe Prince gets full value, but we know last card is Regis, and we know that that's a ton of points. So I think we'll just be okay in this case. Thanks for coming out, guys.